Good evening, everyone. I'm Kathy Holloway Hill, and welcome to another episode of Living by Design. We have a very special guest, but we also have my partner, my Healthy by Design partner, Dr. Karen Rodman, who's going to introduce our guest. Take it away, Dr. Karen.
Thank you, Sister Kathy Holloway Hill, Brother Tony Lamont. I am happy to be here to introduce one of my dearest friends, an Indiana icon, first Black anchor and reporter in this state, Ms. Barbara Boyd, or Barbara the Beautiful, who is a breast cancer survivor of 48 years. And I want her to, this wonderful, remarkable woman, this beautiful lady, to tell and discuss her journey with breast cancer and breast cancer survival.
Living by Design with host Kathy Holloway Hill. Kathy is a strong, powerful voice. She entertains, informs, and inspires her audiences everywhere she goes.
We're here with the legendary, iconic Miss Barbara Boyd. I am honored to have this opportunity, my dear.
My dear.
Yes, my dear. A 48-year breast cancer survivor.
I am so blessed.
You are more than blessed. That is incredible, Barbara. So I want to just jump right in because I have so many questions for you. So the first thing I want to ask you is there a history of breast cancer, or do you have a predisposition or genetically inclined or anything like that?
No, none of the women in my family have had breast cancer. My mom, who lived to be 103, healthy as a horse. My grandmother lived to 96. My mother's sister lived to be 96. Wow. So all the women lived long lives, healthy. You know, and I don't know to what you attribute that. However, now my husband had not breast cancer, but had cancer. Mm-hmm. But my son had breast cancer when he was 17.
Is that right?
I guess it just missed my daughter entirely. But yeah, so.
Wow.
But and I discovered my own lump, you know.
Yeah, because thank you. That was my next question. How did you discover?
I was working in the English Foundation building at the time, and they, I don't know what organization produced it or presented it, but they had a movie on breast cancer and breast cancer awareness. Mm-hmm. And so I had seen that movie, sat there, never thought about me.
Right.
So one day I was showering or bathing or whatever, and I was bathing around my breast, and I said, what is that? You know?
Did it hurt?
Yeah, just as you touch it like that. Uh-huh. And so I said, well, I better get a little verification. So I let Mr. Boyd, honey, can you feel anything up there? So he touched. I said, So I went to 3 doctors: the station doctor, my primary doctor, internist, and to cancer doctor.
Okay, oncologist.
And so when I went to the oncologist, he couldn't find it. I said, it's there. So he kept around, and all of a sudden he hit, and I said, ooh, like that.
Now, they didn't have mammograms back in, this was the 70s, is that correct?
I don't remember taking a mammogram.
Okay.
I might have, but I don't remember that. You know, I just remember going to 3 doctors, and I had to go back to the office, and I was just full. I was, standing up there trying not to cry, waiting to catch the bus back. And I'm going, trying to sing, not to remember, not to think about it.
Right.
And so I got home and I told Ted, and so he says, well, honey, we'll just do what we have to do,
Well, did he actually confirm it, the oncologist?
Well, he said, we're going to take some more tests.
Okay, good.
So he said, and after I had the test, he said...
And what kind of tests during those?
Just again, this feeling, and I guess I did. He did mammogram. He took pictures or whatever. I just don't remember.
Ultrasound.
Oh, I just don't remember. But at any rate,
X-rays.
X-rays. I don't remember. It's back too far. It was.
Yes.
So anyway, he says, "Well, we're gonna do the operation next Wednesday." I said, "Oh no, I am going out of town on assignment, and I'll be gone."
Did
for
he
a week."
explain what type of operation? Just remove the lump or remove the breast?
Yes. Well, a modified radical. That's moving the entire breast.
Yes.
And so he said, "We're going to do the operation next Wednesday." I said, "I'm going out of town on assignment. I'll be gone for a week, and when I come back, I'll go to Chicago to a party, and I'm just going on and on, He looked at me, he said, "Well, if that's what you want, then that's what it'll be." But if I'd have known then what I know now.
Did you do all that?
Oh, yes. I didn't realize how fast cancer could grow. Oh, yes, honey, I did it all. When I came back, okay, I'm ready, So we had the operation, I thought. So I'm in the bed, I'm in the room, all doped up. So the nurse came and she says, "Well, it looks like you're out of the woods." So I said, "Oh, good." But then the doctor came in. He said, well, see, what that nurse didn't know and what I didn't know is that he always reserves a smaller operating room. Mm-hmm. And if it isn't benign, if it's benign, then you haven't wasted up a lot of money and time for a large operating room. So it was malignant. That's when they finally found that was the test right there.
I got you.
And so then we rescheduled.
Because I know they probably could at least insert a needle in there and pull some of the fluid out to see.
What I do remember, and I don't remember if it's that time or whether it's a later time, is that when you go in, you lay on your belly, and your breast hangs down in a little hole, and then they shoot a needle in it. And that way, anytime you have the next doctor examines you, he knows exactly where the cancer is. Technology. So anyway, I have it. I'm home for about, I was in the hospital for about a week.
For about a week?
About a week. Mm-hmm.
So you had to recover. This is recovering from removing the actual breast.
Can you stay in hospital that long now? I don't think so.
No, they get you out of there fast.
Yeah, well, anyway.
Unless you have complications, yeah.
And I just want to tell you that the way people thought in the 70s about people that had breast cancer, hey, she's got breast cancer, Matter of fact, my roommate was a lady whose husband left her, her son abandoned her, she lost her job. Matter of fact, people thought you could catch it. And anytime you mention about cancer, people, even on soap operas, they say, with the music, they say, "Sarah Jane has cancer." Da 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 da. Everybody.
Exactly.
And so, but my surgeon was Dr. Ray Smith, Community East. Said he got it all. I had no chemo. I had no radiation. I had no problems with swelling or no after effects. And after you have that type of operation, modified radical, there are 1 of 5 exercises that they give you with a ball. And depending upon the extent of your operation, you work with this ball, and then you do exercises over your head and other kinds of things, So this woman who's my roommate says, "Can I have some of your exercises?" I told her, I said, "Honey, your operation might not be as like mine. You can't do what I do."
Exactly.
So, but I had a good doctor, and I trusted him, and I just believed in him right away. The surgeon's somebody you don't really know.
Exactly, and you are actually putting your life in their hands, and
he was excellent.
That's awesome, Barbara. I know it's so many. Oh, I just have so many questions that I want to ask you, but for now, we're going to take a quick break. And stay right where you are, because we will be right back with the legendary Miss Barbara Boyd. Welcome back to Living by Design. So we're going to just continue right on with the conversation. So Barbara, I want to ask you, how did your family react to your news and your diagnosis? And, how did that impact them? Did it have, were they sad? How did it affect them?
They were concerned, especially my husband. He really thought I was going to die. I told him, I said, "Oh, honey, yeah." I said, "Look, honey, I just started television. I can't die now."
love your attitude.
But let me tell you, that man was just, you know, I think part of getting well is the support that your family gives you. He never once made me feel less of a woman. He was, and here's a man that only knows how to boil water. But he took all the chore of taking care of the kids, you know, keeping them. Now, my kids didn't have any problem with me. Now, see, my son had the breast cancer before I did. Shortly after I did.
Oh, shortly after
I did.
Wow. How much shortly? Months, years?
Maybe several months.
Wow.
And
so as far as the impact on your family, as you're still kind of recovering and embracing it,
didn't bother him at all. He whizzed through it just like that too.
how was he diagnosed? I mean, did he find?
Yeah, I don't know if it was. I don't know what caused his. I know sometimes when you have a hit or something, can cause that. But I don't think he was in the hospital a week. You know, it was. You know, he got over that quickly. And of course, the person.
And he didn't have chemo either?
No.
Wow. Did they do chemo back in that time?
I'm sure they did. Yes, they did.
Yeah, because you said your husband had cancer.
But my daughter was the one that was sort of concerned because, you know.
Yeah, Karen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she, you know, she's the female. You assume that the girl is going to get it, but my son got it.
Wow.
But all the children were just, honey, I didn't have to clean up or nothing. I didn't, you know all the things you teach your kids, you know.
Yes.
They did it without even being told. When people were cooking, they never cooked before, you know.
Wow.
And so, you know, the family was great. And I think that is one of the things that helps you to recover quicker is attitude.
Yes.
Attitude about your own health. Your own situation, attitude of your family. You know, if I thought they were some doom and gloom, maybe I would have been that way. But they were all very, very, very supportive. Not a problem at all.
Now, how long did it take you to bounce back once you got out of the hospital?
I was back to work in 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, week after I got out the hospital.
Any repercussions? Did you get a prosthetic or?
No, didn't. But what the station did for me. And I have to give Channel 6 credit. After I had the breast cancer, I went into my news director. I said, you know, I'd like to do a half-hour special on breast cancer.
Oh, yeah.
And Bob said, do we have to show a breast? I said, well, Bob, if we're doing something on breast cancer, I think we have to show a breast, yes. So, I mean, they gave a lot of thought that because it was so new.
Yeah.
I did this half-hour special. I did that story on my own mastectomy.
Just so happens I'm one of those women who is practicing self-breast examination each month. Well, this last time I found a lump and immediately made an appointment with my doctor. At first I just couldn't believe that this was happening to me, but now I'm thankful I had the courage to see my doctor in time, and I was lucky because I did do that. You know, the cure rate is 85% if caught in time. And according to the American Cancer Society, 95% of all lumps in the breast are discovered by women themselves.
In news, you know, if you get 3 minutes, 3 minutes, that's a long time.
Right.
Honey, this piece was 7 minutes long. Well, the editor was late editing the piece, and he had to drop it in. That's when we had film, not tape.
Yes.
And so he drops it in, and the story's going on. They don't really know what it's about because usually the stories are checked for time and for content.
Yeah.
Honey, the story, there's things going on and on. After the piece is over, you know, 2 or 3 seconds dead air it seems like forever. I mean, everybody's just like this, that I had done something like, the piece was 7 minutes long. 7 minutes.
That's huge.
It's big. After that story, the phones ran off the hook. There were hundreds of calls people were calling. There's some people saying, you know, my aunt had that or my mother had that. We never talked about it. You know, it was really, you know, enlightening for you to bring this out the forefront and talk about the importance of early detection.
Yes.
One man, though, called and said, I know that Barbara Boyd does a lot, but sitting up there talking about she had breast cancer, that's a little too much.
Who said that?
Some gentleman, I don't know, you know. It doesn't matter. But from that, a lot of good things came. I traveled around the country. Various television and radio stations talking about the importance of breast cancer, early detection. Met Betty Ford. My intro to Betty was, "Hey, bosom buddy, what's going on?" She cracked up. So we had a good conversation with her. And I just feel that by allowing us to, the station allowing me to go around the country talking, it really helped a lot of people. Conversations started, before you didn't talk about it. It was a hush-hush kind of thing. But now I have given you permission, from my own experience.
Gave the people a voice.
Permission, to talk about it. And that they have done,
Oh my goodness. And that's why I say you really are a trailblazer, an icon, a legend in so many areas, and in the area of health.
But you don't think about that at the time. You don't think about what you're doing, you just you just do, and then after that we held sort of a little seminar thing, a panel with oncologists and some other patients, and we talked about their experiences, and they just talked a little bit about what your doctor Karen's going to talk about today.
Yes.
Again, enlightening, and that I can't stress this strongly enough. You just have to be aware. Start early. If you feel something, check it out.
Right.
What are you gonna lose?
Don't
Maybe a boob.
Ignore it. Yes.
Don't ignore it.
Well, you know what? I think if I had the decision or the choice between losing a boob or my life,
The boob guy.
take both boobs.
Well, you know what? You don't never know that you've had breast cancer. You never know. You can't tell from looking at a person.
Exactly. Exactly.
So,
Well, you know what? I love what you said about having a good support system, because I believe that is absolutely critical, and your own mindset.
That's right.
Not to sit around, oh, woe is me, oh, I'm going to die. Well, if you keep thinking you're going to die, you're going to die.
Well, it's just like when you lose someone to death or for divorce or for whatever reason, anything that interrupts the family structure, you have to just go on and on and on. You have to get up and get out and do what you got to do.
Exactly.
And so life goes on.
That's right.
Life goes on.
Barbara, you're an inspiration to me. I know you're an inspiration to so many people for so many reasons, and now you have another reason, and you have on your beautiful pink today, which
It's the cancer color.
I know exactly, which you look stunning, by the way. We're going to take another quick break, and we're going to be right back with more of the amazing Miss Barbara Boyd. Welcome back to Living by Design. We are still here with Barbara Boyd. Now, Barbara, what I want to talk about now is going forward. So after everything, you did all of your traveling, and I love that you traveled around and you gave people a voice and you helped people understand that this is not a death sentence. You can move forward with this.
Well, I really have to give Channel 6 credit for allowing me to do that, to take that step, because like I said, at that time, people weren't talking about it, didn't want to discuss it. So that's where I think that when I went out, the whole idea was to make people aware of breast cancer and early detection. But I also want to bring out the fact that even though you've been cleared this year or the first year, it is important, it is imperative that you continue to have breast exams at the doctor's office, mammogram, however they want to do it. There are other technological things that they do even more so than the mammogram. But it's important to do that every year. That's part of your maintenance program. I've been cancer-free for 48 years, and I go every year. Now, I have had a lumpectomy, and that's a preventive kind of thing.
Yes.
And I had radiation. I went for a week.
Now, how far after your initial diagnosis?
This was a couple of years ago.
Okay. Gotcha.
I went for a week, twice a day, and had radiation.
Okay.
And it was no more than an hour.
Okay.
But the doctor said it was a preventive thing.
Was it benign or?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Excellent.
No problem.
And there was a time that I had my own scare.
You did?
Yes, ma'am. I sure did. I've always had something called, and I want to really bring this out because I want you guys to know, if your doctor has told you that you have cystic breasts.
Fibrocystic.
Yes. If your breasts are fibrocystic, if they've used that word, or cystic, whatever term they use, don't ignore that. Because that means that your breast tissue is more dense than the average breast tissue. So you really have to be diligent, and you really have to go for your mammograms, and you really have to stay on it. So, I mean, I was very diligent. I was going for my mammograms, and I was doing my own self-exam.
Oh, that's important to continue to do that.
Exactly. And they say you should do it in the shower because you need to be
The skin needs to be
soaked
smooth.
up, smooth, and you know, hold your arm up. When you do the exam, hold your arm up because that helps to be able to
stretch it out.
Stretch it out, right. So when I went for a mammogram, and I can't remember the year, I think it was back in maybe the late 80s, early 90s, and I had gone out of town the following day. I went and had my mammogram, and then I just kind of put it out of my mind. I had gone out of town because they called me on my cell phone. I think I had a cell phone back then. I don't know. Anyway, but they called me, and they said, "You need to come back in." I know, right?
Everybody's heart started going like,
I know, and I think I almost went into a panic attack. You need to come back in. We saw some things on the mammogram that we need to do further examination, further testing. And so when can you come in? We'll make an appointment. I said, I'm on my way today.
You didn't have a trip going to Chicago to do it.
Girl, I wasn't thinking about nothing else. I wanted to get my answer. She said, oh, okay, well, if you can make it in now, come on in. So I flew back there, and they did an ultrasound. And they said, well, you know, just stay tuned because, you know, we need to review this. And so they did the ultrasound, and I got the results back days later. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't as brave as you. I just sit there and stared at the wall, basically thinking, Lord, I know you got this. Lord, I know we got this. I just prayed and cried and prayed and cried.
Let me tell you another thing. Outside of having a good attitude about your condition, and the man upstairs will bring you through, honey.
Won't he
I talk to him every day.
Won't he?
That's why I
do
wasn't
it?
worried about anything at all.
Won't he?
Not at all.
And so they called me, and it was about 3 days later, and they said, everything's clear. You don't have to come back in. And I was like, God.
But you know what? I had fibrocystic lumps. I got all kind of scars on my body where they've taken tests and so forth. But now that you mention that, I had that first. And I think they said, I don't know how they do it now. But I think there was a little slit here, and then they take out a piece of skin or tissue or whatever.
Yep.
And but then I think, when I mentioned before, the way they do it now is they put you on your stomach, and your hole here, and your breast hangs down there, and then they put a needle in it, and then that way they can tell.
Well, I know the test that they do now, and obviously you still go, so you go for a mammogram, right?
Just the mammogram.
Okay, okay. Is there anything else? And I know you said they found a lump. And
They haven't found anything since then.
And they say that most of the lumps that they find are benign. So don't be afraid to go. I mean, it's going to cost you in the end if you don't go and get those mammograms.
Oh,
I cannot
absolutely.
stress how important, and you can stress how important.
And you know, keep family and friends close. That's important too. You know, there are some people that don't want you to come to. They don't want anybody to come see them, but I do. I want you to come see me every day. If I'm sick, come see me. If I'm dying, come see me.
Amen.
You
Amen.
know, I just think that family and friends can have an uplifting kind of power.
I know it.
That helps you do it.
Exactly. Is that what you attest your 48-year survival to? Is family, friends, work,
absolutely.
your belief in God and your faith?
I have a friend to this very day that calls me every day since I've had my breast cancer and since Ted passed away.
Oh.
And by the way, Ted's birthday is today, November the 8th. Yeah. Every day, she lost her husband too, and we just sort of keep in touch. You know, uplifting each other. You know, just talking sometimes just helps. You know, if you can talk about it.
Yes.
And not break down. And when you talk about it, it sort of lifts something from you. There's a clarity there.
Yes.
You know, and at least it was with me.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
I never thought I was going to die. I had too much. I had too much to.
Good for you.
They had too much to do.
Good.
I mean, you know, there's the career that I had just started, you know.
Yes,
And
yes.
so that was an incentive to get better, if nothing
Right.
else, you know.
Right.
So, yeah, family, friends, continued breast checking yourselves. Early detection is a key.
It is key.
And hold on to that attitude, and don't forget the man upstairs.
Amen. Attitude of gratitude. Focus on what you're grateful about, and please stop whining about what is not good in your life, because that's going to make such a major difference for everyone. And you know, Barbara, you're such a bright light, and I know you are proud of the fact that you're 90 years old. I cannot believe that. You look amazing.
Lord is good.
All the time. And won't he do it? I mean, he has done it for you. He's done it for me. He's done it for all of us if we would just believe and speak to him and talk to him and just keep him in our lives.
Amen.
Amen. We thank you for joining us for this episode of Living by Design, but we still have more with the amazing Dr. Karen Rodman, who's going to shed a little bit more light on this topic from a different perspective. So we invite you to tune into our YouTube channel, because we're going to have an extended version of this show and this topic. And we really appreciate you supporting our show and watching. So we'll see you the same time next week with another episode of Living by Design. Good night, everyone. Welcome back, and we are so glad that you decided to join us over here on YouTube. And before we begin speaking to our resident doctor, please subscribe to our Living by Design YouTube channel, because all the TV shows that we do are on our channel. So if you miss one, you can come here and see it. So, Dr. Karen Rodman, you are a wealth of knowledge on so many topics, and my audience loves you, and so do I. So let's just talk a little bit more about breast cancer from a neurological perspective. So
Okay.
It's been a long day, Karen.
That's
But
okay.
a neurological perspective. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, Sister Kathy Holloway Hill, basically, breast cancer is an aggressive disease.
Yeah.
And as our lovely, iconic, beautiful Barbara Boyd said, early detection and early treatment is paramount, imperative, important, key, because as a neurologist, unfortunately, sometimes in women and the few men and the men who get breast cancer, it can spread to the nervous system, neurology, the brain. It can spread to the
It's called
spinal cord.
metastasize.
It's called metastatic breast cancer, or breast cancer that is spread elsewhere. It can go to the brain, the spinal cord, and even the spinal fluid. And in those situations, they ask neurologists like myself to see them, because if it's gone to the brain, they could have stroke symptoms with paralysis on the side of the body, loss of vision in an eye, seizures. If it's in the spinal cord, they can suddenly become a quadriplegic, paraplegic, lose bowel or bladder control. And sometimes, again, if it's gone to the brain itself, a deposit, or if it's bathing the spinal fluid, people can slowly become, I guess the term would be dementia, meaning their thinking is off. So, and obviously in those situations, you know, the oncology or cancer doctor is treating it when it spreads with either chemotherapy, radiation, or now these new immune therapies like Keytruda. And then, of course, if it spreads to the brain and causes a seizure, we neurologists would, you know, prescribe medicines to treat the seizures. Or if it was in the spinal cord, you know, we would get our neurosurgical colleagues to, if it's big enough and resectable enough, to maybe partially resect it as well as do chemo and radiation. So I cannot stress enough, as our beautiful Barbara Boyd, anchor to the stars in Indiana, first Black lady, anchor of Indiana, stress, you have to treat it early.
Yes.
And if it does spread, don't give up hope, because there are still treatments for it. And I can give you an example. There was a lady who had an isolated spread of a breast cancer or metastatic disease to one area in the brain. And it caused her to have a small seizure. And so they brought neurology in, and, you know, we
Was she
control.
still in treatment?
Yes, she was.
For the initial
She was.
diagnosis? Okay.
But she had discovered it later. She had waited.
Yep.
And we came in as neurology. We treated the seizure, myself and my team. But then, because it was one area in the brain, we got neurosurgery in because it was small enough and what they call resectable enough that they were going to take the metastatic area of the breast cancer out and then treat it with radiation so that she would go on.
Now, you mentioned immune therapy. Does that mean you're suppressing the immune system?
Well, again, I am not an oncologist, but what they're calling it immunotherapy because what they do is they adjust certain aspects of the immune system, T cells, B cells, and Keytruda is the one that I'm thinking of because they're using it for all sorts of cancers, metastatic, breast, lung, uterine. Oh yeah. You know, that I know people and what I've been told, by oncology physicians, and there's several other, but Keytruda is the one that comes to mind. So,
now, let me just ask you real quick, Karen. So, in your experience with breast cancer, and from what I've seen, we talked to Barbara Boyd, and now we're talking to you about early detection and how critical that is. At what point do you think that you have a high probability or possibility of it spreading or metastasizing? Is if you catch it in stage 3 or 4, or is it 2 or 3 or 4?
That's an excellent question. I would say the more aggressive any cancer is, breast, lung, prostate, or otherwise, the more likely it is, unfortunately, to spread to other parts of the body, be it the brain, the spinal cord, the bone, the liver, the lung. So, yes.
Okay,
So you want to catch it in its very, very earliest stages, just like they did with our lovely icon, Barbara Boyd.
Preferably stage 1. Okay, that's the gold standard. So again, we're going to tell you, before we, continue on, we want to please ask you to get your mammograms, men and women. Men, you're not exempt. I mean, we are really seeing a lot more cases come up and jump up here where men have been diagnosed. So we want to thank you, Dr. Karen, for your incredible insight, your knowledge, and just everything that you bring to our Healthy by Design segment and everything you do for the Living by Design show. We really appreciate you so much.
Well, thank you, Sister Kathy, your husband, Brother Tony, for allowing me to be on your show and at least try to empower people, to empower themselves.
Well, you do that very well, and they love you, and so do I. Thank you for joining us for this extended version, and don't forget to subscribe.